Hi, my name is Davina Beck, and I would like to talk to you today about Romanticism. Imagine being a woman in the 1800s having little to no power and very few rights. The presence of a man is needed to speak most of the time, but you have something to say. So you decide to write a novel about an artificial figure, a man creating an artificial figure, and it coming to life. So you publish it anonymously so people will read it, and it actually becomes very popular. This is what Mary Shelley did in 1818 when she wrote Frankenstein. This novel was created during an era known as Romanticism. Romantics happened during the late 1800s in Europe. It was a big movement that included art, literature, and music. This is different than movements from previous years because it really starts to look at individuality and intellectuality as well. Romanticism happened right after the Enlightenment era, so these people focused on emotion rather than rationalization that the Enlightenment thinkers did. Now today I'm going to speak to you about the characteristics of Romanticism and how it affected the arts. Now the main characteristics of Romanticism are glorification, emotional emphasis, and how nature can kill you. When discussing art, romance isn't about the lovey-dovey romance we see today, but instead romance is used as glorification. In the article Art History 101, basis by Shelley Esky, she talks about the artists of this time by saying they glorified huge complex concepts such as liberty, survival, ideals, hope, awe, heroism, despair, and various sensations that nature evokes in humans. By doing this, the artists really connect to what is felt. The emotion emphasizes in these artists' art were big. Artists would show as much passion and emotion in their work as possible. According to Esky, a landscape had to invoke a mood, a crowd scene had to show expression on every face. An animal painting had to depict some preferably mystic trait of that animal. This really shows the extra mile artists went on their work. Now, the nature can kill you is also a big characteristic of this time and a huge theme in a lot of people's work. The idea of this is that you don't know what can happen in nature and it can go in any direction at any time. A lot of the paintings included shipwrecks because they crash whenever. You don't know what's going to happen. And then it will show that, like, it showcases that even if you live the crash, you probably will still die because of other circumstances such as starvation or dehydration, or the fact that nobody's really going to find you because during that time there wasn't GPS on boats and stuff for people just to come and have search parties. You were going to be lost at sea. Very unfortunate event, but they really showcased that in their time. Artists would try about any natural disaster that was relevant in their time. You wouldn't see something like today. We know about meteoroids and asteroids. That wasn't really relevant, so they wouldn't draw that. But disasters like volcanoes, blizzards, and thunderstorms were really big in their work. Literature was highly impacted during this time. This era of literature became more in the 1700s, but it did prevail all the way to the late 1800s, early 1900s. Some of the biggest literature we know today came from Romantics. According to the encyclopedia, writers of this time wrote as mysterious adventure and aspiration is in evidence in Gothic romance. Now, Gothic romance was big during Romanticism. These novels were usually mysteries, had supernatural influence, and had horror, and set in a dark background, which were usually like castles or medieval ruins, according to the encyclopedia definition of Gothic romance. Frankenstein and Dracula are big prime examples of those. Dracula was a vampire who lived in a castle. People were trying to kill him. All that go with the definition. And Frankenstein, an artificial human being being made creepy. That's horror. It was set in like a medieval ruins, basement-y type setting. So those are really big, and we still see those today. People are trying to remake these movies into movies now. Art was highly influenced too. Paintings were drawn with tons of emotion. Some of the big paintings of this time were The Wanderer of the Sea of Fog, The Death of Sandro Plinus. So now let's take a look at these paintings and see why they come from this era. When looking at The Wanderer, you know it's from Romanticism because of the traits. The Wanderers, the traits such as the landscape is very shown. You can really tell he's up somewhere high with all the fog and all that. And then when you're looking at the wanderer, you can see he's looking through the fog. You can't see his face, but you see him looking out, and that shows a lot about self-reflection. And it's said to be a metaphor for the unknown future. He's looking out, but he doesn't know what's going to happen next. And during that time period, in the 1800s, there was just a lot of like negative. They didn't know what was going to happen next, so it's really reflective of that. Now, the death of Sandrinopoulos was the opposite of the neoclassicism, making it a perfect fit into Romanticism, because Romanticism was the opposite of neoclassicism, which was the era before it. You can see every little detail of everyone's face, the pain, the sorrow, even the horse has emotion. Everyone sees the pain while the king is laying on his bed, and he's okay, like he's fine, because he doesn't mind destroying everybody with his power, as long as he stays in power and in his throne, which also shows an example of the opposite of neoclassicism. So I hope you learned today about Romanticism and all the different characteristics it has, including emotional emphasis, glorification, and how the nature can kill you. Also about different arts that happened during that time, like different literature and novels that came from it, and different paintings that we described today. So Romanticism is a big idea as we still see today, and remember what the famous writer Alfred de Musset said: Romanticism is the abuse of adjectives. Thank you very much, and have a great day.